Imagine a single day when silence broke into thunder, and the fate of millions began to shift. August 8, 1918, known as the Black Day of the German Army. This was the Battle of Amiens, a turning point in World War I that changed everything. Let's journey back to that day. Before we begin, please subscribe to our channel for more thoughtful explorations of history's greatest moments. And if you find this story moving, share it with someone who values peace as much as you do. History teaches us more than dates. It teaches us life. Let's begin the story. The year was 1918. The world had been bleeding for nearly 4 years. World War I had started in 1914, and by this time, over 16 million soldiers and civilians had already lost their lives. The Western Front, stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, was a scar across Europe. Muddy trenches, barbed wire, and broken dreams. For the soldiers, every sunrise looked the same. Gray skies, wet boots, and the fear of never seeing home again. For families back home, the war letters were both a lifeline and a dagger. News from a loved one could bring joy or unbearable grief. Germany had launched its spring offensive earlier in 1918, hoping to break the stalemate before American forces arrived in full strength. For a while, it seemed like they might succeed. They pushed the Allies back across the Somme and almost reached Paris, but their advance stalled. The cost was enormous. Exhaustion began to creep in. Their supplies were thin. Their spirit was breaking. And then came Amiens, a small, quiet city in northern France. Never imagining it would become the stage for one of the most decisive battles in modern history. The Allies, composed of British, French, Australian, Canadian, and American forces, knew something had to change. The stalemate had gone on too long. Soldiers were dying for inches of ground. The war had drained entire nations, leaving hunger and hopelessness behind. By mid-1918, the situation was critical. Germany still held large portions of France and Belgium, but cracks were showing. They had lost nearly 1 million men during the spring offensive. Morale was low. Food shortages were severe. Many German soldiers were tired, hungry, and questioning why they were still fighting. The Allies saw their chance. The new Allied commander-in-chief, Ferdinand Foch, believed in coordinated attacks, not just one army moving, but several striking together, and for this he needed a plan that was fast. Overwhelming and completely unexpected, enter Sir Douglas Haig, the British commander, and General Henry Rawlinson of the British Fourth Army. Their plan was bold. Attack near the city of Amiens with surprise and strength. No long artillery bombardments to warn the enemy. Instead, the battle would begin suddenly, with infantry, tanks, artillery, and aircraft moving as one. This would be combined arms warfare, something the world had never seen at this scale. The planning was meticulous. Silence was everything. The Germans could not know what was coming. The date was set August 8, 1918. The objective: smash through German lines near Amiens and push them back before they could recover. The force: more than 100,000 troops from Britain, Canada, Australia, and France, supported by 2,000 artillery pieces and 500 tanks, the largest tank assault of the war. The air: over 800 aircraft to dominate the skies and cut enemy communications. The Allies understood something vital. Morale was as important as firepower. If they could deliver a shock so devastating that German soldiers felt hopeless, the battle might end sooner, and the war with it. At 4:20 a.m. before dawn, the world changed. The battle began with a short, sharp artillery barrage, not the usual days-long bombardment, but just enough to stun the enemy. Then silence, and then the roar of tanks. Imagine being a German soldier that morning. The mist hung low. You could barely see ahead. Suddenly, out of the fog, these giant metal beasts rolled forward, their guns spitting fire, their engines growling like monsters from another world. Behind them came waves of Allied infantry, Australians, Canadians, British, and French, moving with speed and coordination. Overhead, aircraft rained bullets and bombs on German positions, while others dropped smoke to hide the Allied advance. The Germans were shocked. Their defenses crumbled. Entire units surrendered without firing a shot. By the end of the first day, the Allies had advanced up to 8 miles, an achievement unheard of in trench warfare. German General Erich Ludendorff called it the Black Day of the German Army. Why? Because for the first time, German soldiers surrendered in large numbers without resistance. Their will was broken. What made Amiens so special? It wasn't just another battle. It was a psychological turning point. For 4 years, the Western Front had hardly moved. Men died for a few yards of mud, but now the Allies were advancing miles in a single day. German soldiers knew the truth. Their army could no longer win. This realization spread like wildfire through their ranks. In the following days, the Allies kept pushing. Within a week, they had captured over 50,000 prisoners and 500 guns. The Germans retreated, trying to hold their lines, but the tide had turned. Amiens was the beginning of the 100 Days Offensive, which ended with the armistice in November 1918. History is not just numbers and strategies. It's people, real men who fought, feared, and hoped. One Canadian soldier wrote, "When the tanks came out of the mist, I thought the earth itself was moving." The Germans didn't stand a chance. Some dropped their rifles and ran. Others just raised their hands, crying for mercy. An Australian officer recalled, "We moved like never before. No one believed we could advance so far in a single day." After years of mud and blood, it felt like a miracle. On the German side, a young soldier wrote in his diary, "The fog lifted, and we saw them coming, tanks, endless tanks. We had no fight left in us. We laid down our arms and prayed it would end." These voices remind us that behind every strategy were human lives, each with a family, a story, and a dream. The Battle of Amiens didn't end the war immediately, but it began the collapse of the German army. In the weeks that followed, the Allies launched one offensive after another, pushing the Germans back across the Western Front. By November 11, 1918, just 3 months later, the guns fell silent. The Great War was over. But the cost? Over 75,000 casualties in the Battle of Amiens alone, and millions more across the entire war. Entire villages wiped out, families torn apart, nations scarred forever. So what do we learn from Amiens? That surprise and unity can change the course of history, that even the mightiest armies can break when morale is gone. That war, no matter how necessary it seems, leaves wounds that last generations. And perhaps most importantly, that peace is worth every effort. Because if the world had listened after 1918, maybe there would have been no 1939, no World War II, no more rivers of blood. The Battle of Amiens was not just a military victory, it was a message. That endurance, planning, and hope can end even the darkest storms. Today, as we remember those who fought and fell, let us honor their sacrifice by choosing peace whenever we can. Because history is not just about the past, it's about the choices we make today.